Hello, Lauren.
Hello there. How are you?
Hi. I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing great, thank you.
Awesome. Nice to see you. Thank you so much for coming on here live with me
Um,
today.
my
Yeah,
pleasure.
it's been amazing to hear all these awesome stories and success stories from all around the world about your water fasting retreats and just taking people. If you guys don't know, he has been taking people through water fasting since 1996. Is that right?
That's
And you
right.
and you have your own water fasting retreat. Where is your water fasting retreat at?
I don't anymore.
Oh, you don't anymore. Okay.
I ran the world's largest fasting center until February 2025. It's now closed, and I now work with people remotely, as you know.
Mm-hmm. Beautiful, beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, my
As
pleasure.
Yeah, as you know, we've been going through this Lent season, interviewing lots of people and just sharing the good word about how when we abstain. For most people, they've been abstaining from animal products. If they're already vegan, they're maybe going raw. If they're already raw, maybe they're trying water fasting or juice fasting. And we thought, what better way to bring on like the master water faster here onto
Uh,
our channel. So I would love to
Thank you.
hear about how you got started. How did this health journey for you begin?
Sure. Well, it's probably a common story. I mean, I'm sure you've heard some similar things before. I got very sick, about 6 months out of school. I got very sick. I was 23,
Mm-hmm.
and I worked with doctors for 3 years because all I grew up on the East Coast, outside of Washington D.C. All I really knew was conventional medicine, and so for 3 years I worked with three different doctors. I got
Mm-hmm.
sicker all the time. Finally, after 3 years, I woke up one day and thought, these guys don't have any clue what they're talking about. Toxic medications are never going to make me healthier. And that was it. I decided I'm done with medicine. I walked away. I've literally never gone back, with the exception of trauma medicine. So I used to be a bit of an adrenaline junkie. What time is it? That hasn't been true for 15 or 20 minutes now. Um, but I used to engage in lots of crazy activities, and I would sometimes get injured. And so
Okay.
I've severed arteries on 3 occasions. If you sever
Wow.
an artery, fasting is not going to be your best way to deal with that. Um,
It's not going to magically put your arm back together.
you probably want to have that sewn back together. So trauma medicine is amazing, and it's kept me alive on multiple occasions, probably 5 occasions, in nearly 65 years. But I have never been to a doctor now in 39 years. It took me 6 months to figure out what I needed to do after medicine failed me. And, I didn't intend to become a health coach, and I certainly didn't intend to supervise fasts.
Mm.
What happened was the change in me was so dramatic that people would come up to me and say, "Oh my God, you look amazing.
Mm.
What did you do? Can you help me, or can you help my kid or my partner, or, my whatever?" And so I think everybody wants to help. And I started helping other people. After a few years, I thought spending most of my time helping people, coaching people without getting paid isn't a very good way to pay the bills. I
Right.
was I was neglecting the primary business that was supposed to be paying the bills, and it wasn't doing very well because I was neglecting it. And
Mm-hmm.
so I was in the commercial real estate business, so I closed my real estate company to become a full-time health coach.
Wow.
And a few years later, 30 years ago in March, I looked around. Initially I began fasting nearly 40 years ago myself, and I didn't know there were places you could go. Back then, there were actually more places. There were about 4 or 5 in the US alone. They're all gone now except for one. There's a couple new ones. Honestly, these places don't have much experience. They're places I wouldn't want to spend any time. And in fact, I looked around and thought, I would never want to spend a month in these places. They felt like
Mm-hmm.
hospitals.
Yeah, yeah,
They,
yeah.
they were they were disconnected from nature. I had 37 acres in Costa Rica. It was
Wow.
spectacularly beautiful. Many people said the most beautiful place they'd ever seen.
Mm.
And we know that being connected to the energy of nature is really powerful. It does a lot for us. In fact, I mean, in studies, someone in a hospital room that can see a tree through a window heals
Mm.
15% faster than someone who can't see a tree from their window. Just being able to see the tree. Now,
Yeah.
imagine if instead of that, you're actually surrounded by the energy of nature. And living in Hawaii, that
Mm-hmm.
we had windows and doors, but nothing was ever really closed. Everything was completely open to
Yeah.
nature. My primary living area was really a covered patio. It was a giant space,
Yeah.
but it was open on two sides to the garden.
Mm.
And so, the connection you get under those circumstances is amazing. And what happened for people was incredible. And so, as you said, it's been 30 years, it's been more than 30 years now I've been working with people this way. I've
Wow.
guided more than 12,000 people through fast, averaging 26 days.
Wow.
And what happens is medicine would call it miracles, well, the
Mm-hmm.
kinds of things we see happening. And I think it really brings people back to the understanding that our amazing bodies are intended to feel and function incredibly well, like to
Mm-hmm.
function at a level of health and vitality that most people have never actually experienced. Many people don't even know it's possible.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And tell me, like, how did you decide to water fast though? So you were sick. You said you were
Yeah.
really sick. You were done with doctors. So then did you find water fasting, or how did you actually heal yourself?
Well, yeah. I mean, I went through a process, a mental process. Medicine had failed me. I didn't know what else to do. The first thing that I thought was maybe I should go back to nutrition, and I say back to because in my 14th year, I grew 10 inches without gaining a pound. I literally, yeah, I literally look like a stick with the nose. And, hormones are kicking in. I'm wanting the girls to find me attractive, and I look like a stick with the nose. And so I thought, maybe if I study nutrition and begin working out, maybe I can build some muscle mass. That got me interested in nutrition and human health and potential. And so now, between then and getting sick, I'd been through high school where my attention had become a little bit diverted from the study of nutrition to the study of marijuana and alcohol consumption. Um, eating garbage,
Yeah, yeah.
trying to get laid, frankly. I went on to college. I wasn't really focused on these things. So when I got sick again and I realized medicine wasn't helping me, I thought maybe I need to go back to nutrition. I
Mm,
did. And what I found out was I was doing everything conventional nutrition said I should do, and I was sicker than anybody I knew. And that's
wow.
when I thought, okay, you know what? I don't think conventional nutrition works.
Yeah.
And so I started thinking, okay, well, there must be a natural diet, right?
Mm,
There's I can tell you today, there's between 25 and 30 million animal species,
mm-hmm.
including insects. Many of those are insects. And every single species has one species specific natural diet, right? You know it's very common. It's
Yep.
popular for people to say, well, that works for you, but it's different for everyone.
Yeah, yeah,
Well,
yeah.
if that were true, we'd be the only species on the planet that were true for. It's pretty unlikely. I'm clear. I'm clear now. I know a lot of people have said I tried that fruit diet that didn't work for me. No one
Mm-hmm.
has said that after fasting with me for 21 days or more. Because when we get the
Mm,
body clean and hydrated, we're going to feel amazing eating the
yeah,
one diet that our bodies are actually meant for. So,
yeah.
but I started off looking for what was natural for my body. Ultimately, that led me to a raw vegan diet. I've lived on a fruit-based diet now for 34 and a half years.
Wow.
Um, but, and again, not a single day sick in 39 years now. So, I think it's fair to say that I
Getting
figured
there.
I figured out something that works, right?
Yeah.
I think that's fair. But while I'm trying to figure all this out and looking at other species, I noticed, oh, in fact, I grew up with a dog and a cat and saw both of them refuse to eat at various periods of their life when they were sick enough. And what I started realizing was that every species on the planet instinctively stops eating when sick enough or badly enough injured. You and I
Yeah.
lost our appetite when we were sick. Now, I don't know about you. I grew up with a stereotypical Jewish mother, right? You gotta eat more, more food. Um,
You're
and of
gonna
course,
starve yourself.
exactly.
Yeah.
Our bodies knew exactly what they needed. What they needed was a break, right? The reason that every animal instinctively fasts is because processing food, even the best food, even the highest quality organic mangoes and papayas and pineapples and watermelons you've got there in Hawaii,
Yeah.
that requires a lot of work for the body to process that through. And when the body needs to cleanse or heal, regenerate tissue, whatever it is, these restorative processes take a lot of energy. And
Yeah.
so we instinctively lose our appetite. Now, the problem is that most of us have lost touch with our natural instincts. And we've been trained that we have to eat. I mean, people argue with me every day on social media. No, you have to eat to heal. No, you definitely don't. And it absolutely slows down the process of healing. Um, we don't really need to worry about nutrients when healing. What we need to worry about is energy. And the key is to liberate the body's energy as much as possible.
Yeah.
And so that's how I came to fasting. Ultimately, I came across a book called Rational Fasting by Professor Arnold Ehret. And he
I know
talked
that
about
book.
people going weeks without food. And, it seemed a little crazy to me, Sarah, but at the same time, it made some sense. And again, as I said, I grew up Jewish, but only on my parents' side, not religious at all. But I'd fasted every year, one day for Yom Kippur. And so I knew I could survive one day. He was talking about weeks without food, and I didn't really know if that was possible. But I had done one day over and over again. I decided I would try 2 days, and I parked myself close to the refrigerator just in case. I'm thinking, what's tickling my back of my head? It's this plant right here. Um, what is that? So I did 2 days, and then I did 4 days, and then I did 8 days and 12 days, and I worked myself up to doing 21 days and more at a time. And amazing things happened for me. And
What kind of
again,
things happened?
I went from being exhausted all the time. I had I was eventually diagnosed with chronic fatigue syndrome, irritable bowel syndrome, systemic candida, chronic sinusitis, and 57 allergies.
Whoa. Whoa.
And so I became allergic to almost everything: dust, pollen, mold, fruits and vegetables, you name it. And so what happened was I stopped reacting to things around me. I started having, I stopped having bowel issues. I began feeling energetic again. I mean, I went from being an energetic kid in college, riding my bicycle everywhere, until a few years later, I literally, I was the youngest officer of the second largest commercial real estate company in Washington, D.C. And I bought a house 10 minutes from the office so I could wake up at 8:30 in the morning and be at my desk at 9 o'clock. And then be back in bed by 6 o'clock in the evening because I was exhausted for 3 years. And so, I started to regain energy. I mean, I started to feel human again. And again, I mean, I didn't intend to do this, as I said before. People could see the dramatic shift in me. And that's what led me to becoming a health coach and fasting supervisor.
Wow, what an incredible story, and such an inspiration to let people know that there's other ways than just conventional medicine, and that if we let our body just be, it will heal, and you are
Yeah,
the walking example, plus thousands of other people that are doing it too. And
absolutely.
I know you're talking a lot about the physicality, but how about that emotional and spiritual side of what fasting does for you? Did you have any really big, huge realizations? Did you have a moment with God, what people would say when you were fasting? How was that for you?
Yeah. To be honest, I can't say I ever had a moment with God while I was fasting. It didn't occur then for me. And even emotionally, I didn't realize what was happening. But there are two, I can remember two what were powerful moments for me that came not while I was fasting, But after fasting, when I realized there were huge shifts for me. Again, I grew up in the 60s and 70s. I like to say I experimented with substances. I tried marijuana maybe 3 or 4 thousand times. Um, I used all kinds of other things, and it was my way of escaping. I grew up in a household. My mother was really tough. I wasn't particularly happy. I moved out of my mother's house at 16.
Okay.
But I remember after I began fasting and things, my health had changed. I was able once again to be physically active. And I'd hiked up to the top of a mountain with my cousin. And I remember standing there thinking, this is the biggest high I've ever had. There was nothing in my system except maybe some oranges, right? But I felt incredibly connected to everything, right? And for me, that's what spirituality is. It's the realization on a cellular level that you and I and the ant over there and the plants, we're all connected. That's what spirituality is. We're all from the same cloth. Jesus said, each of you is exactly as I am. And interestingly, Buddha, Lao Tzu, Muhammad all
Yeah.
said almost the same words to their followers.
Yeah.
So, the idea that all the more enlightened people have always known is that we're all the same, we're all connected, it's one energy.
Yeah.
And so I had that experience only after I began detoxifying and healing my body in a significant way that enabled me to go from being unable to do anything to being able to hike up the top of the mountain. At the same time, I remember I always felt kind of isolated. I always felt different. And I think a lot of people experience this. I mean, I realize it wasn't just me. It's not an unusual thing. This is why I think when we're teenagers and we're so desperately feeling like outsiders, most kids are just trying to do whatever they need to do to feel accepted by everybody else. And that's why kids do such stupid things, right? I mean, I think this era has passed. I don't remember how long ago this was, 20 years ago now, when everyone was walking around with their crotch of their jeans down by their knees.
Yep.
And I remember looking at that going, okay, that looks incredibly stupid. And it looks like it'd be really hard to walk that way.
Right.
Like it looks pretty, why are you doing that? And in fact, I remember being on a bus in the UK, and there was a young woman. I was there. I actually did a couple of college courses in the UK. And so I think I was in my senior year of school, and I'm on this bus in London, and there's a woman with bright pink or bright green hair. And I said to her, I'm just curious, why you do that. She said, well, it's a form of protest. Or, I remember up hearing other people doing the same things. Well, I'm expressing my individuality. I'm like, yeah, you are just like everybody else, right? I mean, the truth is it's about trying to fit into a group. And I realized something important, and that was, first of all, we are unique. Again, we're all connected, and yet each of us is an individual, unique expression. You're doing amazing things with what you're doing to get the word out there about, the good news about eating properly and fasting and so forth. There's nobody else on the planet that could do exactly what you're doing the way you're doing it. Okay, there's nobody else on the planet that could do the work that I've done exactly as I've done it. Each of us is going to be able to touch people in ways that nobody else could. And this is true for every single person here. If you're watching this now, or if you're listening later on, it doesn't matter. Each of us is capable of things that nobody else is. Each of us has genius in some area. Some people's genius might be that they're the best sleeper in the world. They can sleep better than anybody else. Other people have more advanced forms of genius, but each of us has genius in some way. And yet I still, I knew that, and I got that part about being individual, and I still felt disconnected. I would go to, I love swing dancing. And there was a place not far from where I lived at the time that had, I don't remember now if they were I think they were every month. It was like a monthly swing dance. And I would go there, and I loved dancing, but I would often go home. I was single at the time, and I would go home feeling, okay, didn't really connect with anybody. like I might have had fun dancing, but I didn't really feel any connection.
Mm-hmm.
And once things began to change for me, wherever I went, it didn't matter where I was, I would connect with a bunch of people. I mean,
Mm.
and I think what shifted was I began to focus, and it wasn't so much, I mean, I got this consciously, but it sort of became my de facto operating system was I realized that no matter who I'm talking to, no matter who it is, no matter, I've been in 75 countries, I've had the chance to give lectures and seminars all over the world, and it's been an amazing gift for
Yeah.
me, and I hope for the people that were there to receive as well. But what I found is that it doesn't matter where I am, it doesn't matter who they are, what color they are, what their religion is. You know, none of that stuff matters. We all have much more in common than we have different. And
Mm-hmm.
so it became easy for me to connect with people. And
Mm.
again, I mean, this happened for me only after I began to detoxify my own body. And I think, you know, when we do that, we begin to vibrate in sync with nature, and
Mm.
we begin to actually be able to see the beautiful parts of everybody we encounter. And
Aw.
so, yeah, I mean, it was a really powerful experience for me.
That's amazing. And I love that you're saying that because, in fact, Jesus, Buddha, monks, priests all over the world, they go to nature to fast. Why do you think they go to nature to just fast, And
Yeah,
and it's like because you become who you truly are, right? It's like
right.
all of a sudden your true essence, exactly what you're talking about, everyone has their own unique gifts, and how they share it with the world is so beautiful and perfect for them, and that's
Absolutely.
exactly what fasting can do, is what you're talking about, is going into nature to actually really tap into that true essence of their heart.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. The only thing I would say, Sarah, about what you just said is that you said everybody has these unique gifts and can express them, or does express them. I would say that they're able to, they could do it. A lot of people don't, right? A lot of people go through life constantly worried about what other people are going to think of them, constantly worried about how they appear, and is that okay? Should I do this? Um, and I realized, I think it was actually Eleanor Roosevelt who
Mm,
first said, "What other people think of me is none of my business."
mm, mm.
Your job is to go out there and be the very best version of you possible. Just you, and no one else can do that job.
Yeah.
And it doesn't make any difference what anybody else thinks. Okay,
Mm.
I mean, if the bigger your splash is, the more you're out there, the more people you're going to piss off. There are going to be
So
some
true.
people. There are going to be some people that are going to attack you. I mean, there's trolls
Yeah.
out there. It doesn't matter. It
Yeah.
doesn't matter what you say or
Yeah.
what you do. The more visible you are, the more you're going to attract those people too, and that's okay. That's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
I think the easiest, the best. Let me say this: the best way of interacting with those people is to try to remember that they're in pain, because when people say stupid things, it's only because they're hurting and they don't know how else to interact with anyone,
Yeah.
right? They're afraid to be vulnerable and to actually reach out in an honest way because they might get rejected again,
Right.
right? Because they've
Right.
probably been rejected many times before.
Yeah,
But
absolutely.
yeah, so it's interesting because people come to me almost exclusively because they've got physical issues they're trying to deal with. Now, sometimes they come with depression or anxiety or something like that. But usually it's because they've got cancer, they've got heart disease or hypertension or arthritis or diabetes or bowel problems, digestive issues or chronic fatigue, whatever, Lyme disease. It doesn't matter. It could be anything. And it's important, by the way, to point out that it doesn't really matter what the issue is. The thing I think that most people fail to understand. I mean, I see this literally. I just saw this. Someone had tagged me on something on Facebook, and I looked at it, and someone had asked, "What fruit can I eat to heal this issue?" And the fruit doesn't heal the body. I mean, and that I know that's going to sound You know, a lot of people are going to be screaming at me, right? What are you talking about? Of course it does. No, diet doesn't heal you. Juices don't heal you. Smoothies don't heal you. Supplements don't heal you. Medications definitely don't heal you. Healing is a biological process. Only the body, only the organism can heal the organism. Okay, nothing else. Now, the better the diet is, the better the opportunity the body has to be able to heal, because the less of an impediment we're creating for the body. Okay, but you have to understand, nothing heals the body except the body. Fasting is simply done properly. It's simply the best way to get out of the body's way, and so that it's able to cleanse and heal as efficiently and as effectively as possible. But it has no, there's no special magic. It's just that we're just letting our amazing organisms do the work that they're intended and able to do. Right? That's all it is. And so people come to me almost exclusively for these physical things. I'm kind of, I mean, and this was easier at Tanglewood, where we actually had created an environment for them. There were, you know, there were sort of ways of being in the center that we would ask people to follow. There was a meditation 4 or 5 nights a week, candlelight. And what became clear to me was that I was kind of, I mean, for me, clearly the most important thing is the spiritual component, because it's ultimately about becoming who we are. Who are we? Well, we are part of that uh, divine creative energy of the universe. Call it whatever you want to call it. That's what we are. That's literally what we are. Okay. And the thing is, I mean, as I'm sure you well know, we are manifesting all the time. The problem for most people is they don't know they're doing it, and they're manifesting what they're focused on, which isn't what they want. It's what they don't want. So when we become conscious of this, you know, we can literally create miracles in our own lives and all around us. And so for me, it was kind of like smuggling the spirituality, because that wasn't why people were there, but I wanted everyone to leave with as much of that shift as possible.
Yeah. And you saw that happen probably all the time. You know, they were healing probably emotional wounds from years before that was actually creating those obstructions. You know, we talk about all the time about parasites and those obstructions that are actually inhibiting, you know, causing anger and causing sadness and causing all these different things that are happening within us that's causing harm to ourselves, right? And then you start fasting, or you start, you know, going on a better diet, and then you start seeing them come out. Is that something that you see a lot with your patients, or the people that you're not your patients, but the people you're working with, the eradication of parasites as well?
It is. We definitely see parasites leaving the body. It's oftentimes, we'll often see them in stool. There are times where we don't see them, but people leave without having any of the symptoms that they had of the parasite infestation. And coming back to the earlier piece, yeah, I mean, I'd love to say everybody leaves, everybody completes this process with an emotional, spiritual shift. The truth is, it only happens for those people who are willing to go there. You know, in order to experience that growth, you have to be willing to experience, to simply feel your emotions. And most of us have spent our entire lives, at least subconsciously, doing everything possible to prevent ourselves from feeling those emotions. And there are people who keep that up throughout the entire process. There are people who stay busy the whole time. Let me ask you a question. Did you grow up with dogs or cats yourself?
Oh yeah, I grew up on a farm in Nebraska.
Oh wow. Okay.
Yeah, so
You're the one. I
we
heard
had a
someone
couple
who got it.
dogs. I had lots of cats around for sure.
Okay. So did you ever experience a dog getting so sick it refused to eat?
Oh yeah, all the time.
What did it do?
Oh, it would just go in the corner and it would just lay there and just it would whimper sometimes. It would have little shouts here and there, but it wouldn't eat.
I do that. I do that
Yeah,
sometimes.
you do that. You go to the corner and whimper.
I whimper. I sometimes have to whimper. Yeah. But the point is that the dog laid down in one spot. It might change position every once in a while,
Yeah.
but it doesn't read or listen to music or watch videos or go onto Instagram.
Yeah.
It just rests as completely as possible. Every species does. And
Yeah.
so I'd be constantly encouraging everyone. I'm doing it now. I have several group calls each day where I'm working with people
Mhm.
remotely, and I'm encouraging them to do little. I have one guy every day is like, well, can I just hike over there and back? I'm like, no, you can. Excuse me. You can, of course, but it's not a good idea.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
So
goal is to conserve as much energy as you can, so your body can use that energy to cleanse and heal.
yeah, someone just said, well, animals don't have to pay bills though. So what do us humans do? That's a good question. What do people do that have that working lifestyle where they got to make money? How can they just take off time to just fast, you know?
That's a really good question. I wish I had a simple answer for you.
Right.
Um, what I can tell you, when people say to me, I can't do that, my response will usually be something like, I think what you're saying is it's not important enough to you right now.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because I mean, you can disagree, but my experience has been that when someone really wants something, they find a way to make it happen. There's an old saying: when we have a strong enough why, we figure out how.
Yeah.
So it's difficult. I mean, I have people sometimes who don't have the time off. They take unpaid leave. They take their medical leave. They get next year's vacation in advance. I mean, and well, I don't want to use my vacation. Okay, that's fine. I have a guy fasting with me right now who has a brain tumor,
Mm-hmm.
and he had medical treatment. This is typical, by the way, with cancer. You get the conventional treatment, and the tumor goes away. Whether they excise it, they cut it out, or they use radiation or chemotherapy, the tumor may go away. But you've actually done. Not only have you not positively addressed the causes of cancer, you've negatively addressed them. Cancer, I believe, is caused by toxicity and poor immune function, and you've made the body more toxic and reduced the body's immune function. And so what happens in 3 to 5 years is it comes back even more powerful, worse than it was before. And his came back. And so he's
Mm-hmm.
fasting with me, and he said to me today, well, this was an important day for Christians, so I went to church. And I said, I think Jesus wants you to heal and probably wants you to stay in bed, because walking 3 blocks to church and back isn't going to help you heal. It's going to take energy from you.
Right.
So I think Jesus won't mind if you miss this year's whatever Wednesday, Thursday
Yeah.
is.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
It's, I mean, we have to really be clear about that. So, I mean, the questions are good questions. And I see here, Gymnasiums is asking, how do you do this without getting fired? Some people quit their jobs because their health is the most important thing to them.
Yeah. Yeah.
I've had so far that I know of, I've had two people sell their house because that was the only way they could see, and they wanted their health back, and they got their health back. I've had several people sell a car. Some people borrow money. I mean, some people quit their jobs, they get their health back, and then they go find a job again. I can't tell
Yeah.
you what you need to do or what's best for you,
Yeah.
but I know that I basically gave up my career at one point because I wanted my health back,
Mm-hmm.
and I gave it up. I produced very, very little because I was focused on getting my health back. And then when I got my health back, I was able to go back out there and actually be much more productive, do much more than I could have done had I not healed my body.
Right. Right.
But this is something everyone's going to have to come to terms with themselves. There's no easy answer. I wish I could say to you, well, just do this.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. And it's a renewal. So I always tell people it's like it's not just this one time thing and then you go back to normal. Like once you do this, your life is new. You know, you see things differently. The life is showing you other perspectives that you never thought even existed before, and
That's
opportunities are opening for you, you know? So it's like you think you're going to be the same person that you were prior to
yeah,
fasting is not going to
yeah,
happen.
yeah. Listen, priorities change in a big way. I told you I was in commercial real estate. My plan was, this is what happened for a lot of people I work with. My plan was to retire at 35 with a whole pile of money because people made a lot of money in that field. And before I turned 30, I decided I was going to be a full-time health coach. And I ran Tanglewood for 29 years without ever taking a salary. My focus shifted from being about money to being about helping people. And I mean, it's nice to be able to pay the bills, and I understand everyone has bills. You know, you're going to have to figure that piece out. But
Right.
you know, I've had people say to me. I remember once speaking at a co-op in Brooklyn, and I mean, it's funny because I'm literally in the upstairs in the meeting space with 50 or 60 people. When downstairs, right below, there's all this organic produce, and
Hmm.
someone said, I said to them, you should be eating only organic produce. What if you can't afford it? I said, well, you might want to revisit your priorities. I mean, can you live in a less expensive place? Can maybe you should drive a less
Yes.
expensive car? How much
Yes.
money are you spending on Starbucks um, or on Netflix? I mean, where are your priorities? I'm completely clear. My top priority is taking care of the physical organism, the whole organism, physical, mental,
Yeah.
spiritual, all
Yeah.
of it. But
Yeah.
and I mean, and I get it because this is I think a trap for people who are on a conscious spiritual path, as I have been for a long time. They'll say, yeah, but we're not our bodies. Fair enough, we're not.
Yes.
But I'll
Yes.
tell you, I was a cadet at the U.S. Air Force Academy a few years ago, in 1979 to 1981. And they told us when we first got there, we weren't allowed to ride on motorcycles because the government had so much invested in us. Well, you know, you don't tell an 18-year-old kid, boy especially, I can't speak for girls, you don't tell an 18-year-old boy what not to do. The
Right.
first the first time we were able to get the weekend free, my best friend and I went to Denver and bought a couple motorcycles. Okay, and that summer we drove them across the country, and
Wow.
it was an older bike, and I had issues, and I had to keep stopping to dump oil in the crankcase and deal with issues like that. Fast forward many years, I still have a big BMW motorcycle in Germany, where my girlfriend lives, and
Hmm.
I've done 3 lecture tours across Europe by motorcycle,
Wow.
and they were amazing because the BMW motorcycle is one of the finest machines ever made.
Hmm.
And
Hmm.
so completely trouble free. The way I think about this is the body that I'm using for this physical journey. When the
Hmm.
body is working perfectly, the journey is a lot more pleasant. Okay.
Amen.
I mean, again, 39 years without a day sick. I've spent zero money on doctors, zero money on medicines. I take no supplements. I take no medications. I spent zero money on doctor's visits. I quit. I gave up my health insurance almost 40 years ago.
Wow.
And again, what's the value of that? I've missed 0 days of work. There have
Yeah.
been no times when I couldn't do what I wanted to do. In the meantime, I've got 6 siblings. There are 4 of us in our 60s. I think the oldest might now be 70. The others at that age, my younger sisters had both their knees replaced. My older siblings have things they can't do anymore.
Mm.
Not me.
Yeah. Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
It's what a blessing. What a blessing. And I love that you're talking about like using your BMW, your Mercedes, like using this vehicle to be the healthiest you can be, and it's and for those people that are more spiritual, like this is your temple, right? This is where
Exactly.
you house your spirit, and like
Exactly.
why are we not treating this temple with such love and care that we would
Yeah.
want to do for anyone else out there? Like you would want your children to be healthy, to be happy inside and out, but why wouldn't the real question is, why do we not want to do that for ourselves? And why don't
Yeah.
you feel like that worthiness? Hello.
Hey there.
Hi. I'm not sure what happened. All of a sudden you were frozen, and then that was it. I was like, what's going on? But I got that saved for us though. So I'm glad that I posted that up so we don't lose that and we can
Okay, great.
continue the conversation. So
Perfect. Perfect.
I don't know where I didn't you didn't actually get to talk after I spoke. So if you want to rewind, or I can ask another question, whatever's easier.
It's up to you. I don't remember what your last question was. Where
I
were we?
think we were just talking about just like the unworthiness and why people don't believe that they can,
Yeah.
they feel worthy of being in this beautiful body. Like you said, they're like, our body, this is just our body, right? It's not anything. But to think that it's, where we house our spirit and everything, that's where we were going with.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a lot of things going on there, but yes, unfortunately, it does seem that. I mean, again, I've worked with a lot of humans, and I think almost everyone is walking around with some impaired view of who they are and what their real value is.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Uh, and then I want to go a little bit into, because a lot of the people that watch, even my channel, like we talk a lot about, preparing for family, preparing for your baby, preparing your body
Right.
for your vessel to receive these children and to be like the best mother, father. Can you share a little bit more about that with me? About like, do you help people in that realm, or are you yourself a father as well?
No, I'm
No.
not. My girlfriend has a son, but they live in another country, and so yeah,
Mm,
we don't see the other don't see each other very often right now.
right.
Um, so no, I don't have any children of my own. I have parented others' children at times, partners'
Mm,
children, but yes, I mean I've worked with many couples, or often individuals when they figure out what's going on, where they haven't been able to get pregnant.
mm,
Um, and so far, in fact, I've worked with even more young women who it's not that they couldn't get pregnant, it's that they wanted to make sure that their body was as clean and healthy as possible before getting pregnant, to ensure the health of their baby. And the results so far have been amazing.
mm,
Everyone who wanted to get pregnant has gotten pregnant, um, and incredibly healthy babies. In the
mm,
best circumstance, I had one young woman who fasted with me and then had her fiance fast with me, and then they got pregnant, and then
mm.
she had the baby, and then she fasted with me once since then after he was finished breastfeeding.
Wow.
So this has been going on now for several years. But there have been many young women who fast with me before getting pregnant and were able to get pregnant, have not only healthy babies but very easy pregnancies and childbirth. Because as you know, it's not
Yep.
supposed to be a difficult or painful process. I mean,
Not,
maybe a little bit uncomfortable at times, but not the way that we see it happening in the world today.
yeah, absolutely. I mean, I experienced that firsthand, after, going for 2 years on a raw lifestyle and doing fast. I didn't do any water fast, but I did definitely fruit fasting and juice fasting and,
Uh-huh.
having a no symptom pregnancy and a pain-free push-free 10-minute birth, and
Yeah.
there's something to the biological, like, and especially if you're doing like that water fasting, like you said, you're removing those obstructions, you're removing the acidity from your body that's inhibiting from you from like, I kind of see it as similar as constipation. Like when women have hard time getting the baby out, it's like they can't get the baby out because there's something constipated in there.
Well,
And when that's cleaned out, go ahead if you wanted to share something. When that gets
yeah, I
cleaned
can
out,
I can I can speak directly to that. I
okay.
have a piece. I have a piece that will piss some people off for sure. And I personally I wouldn't feel complete coming off a podcast without pissing some people off because that's going to happen
Hmm.
every time. I believe. I mean, I don't. With elimination, with that kind of constipation, it's very real. And this is somewhat controversial. A lot of people don't think this, it happens, but every time we've eaten anything that wasn't high in both water and fiber, a little bit of it gets stuck in the small intestine. I'm 6 feet tall. From the bottom of my stomach to my ileocecal valve in my right groin, where the small intestine ends, that's about 12 inches of
Wow.
space. In that 12 inches, there's roughly 22 feet of small intestine. It's all twists and turns. It's 1/3 the diameter of the large intestine. It's half an inch in diameter. It's sacculated like a vacuum cleaner hose. We're meant to be eating only things that are high in water and fiber. When we eat dry food, even raw vegan food, if it's dry, eating enough dry food, you're
Hmm.
creating issues.
Hmm.
Okay.
Hmm.
But I mean, growing up in Nebraska, I'm willing to bet you weren't growing up on watermelons and papayas.
No, not even close.
Yeah. I grew up eating more or less conventional. My mother deserves credit because she was thinking about nutrition. She didn't know much. She believed milk was good for us, right? but she thought we had to have meat regularly. We ate that, but we didn't have all the junk food. And of course, there was a lot less of it 60, 65 years ago
Right.
than there is today.
Right.
Grocery
Right.
stores were 1/3 to 1/4 the size they are today. And it's not because there's more fruits and vegetables today. But so there are people who don't believe this stuff exists. Every client of mine who follows my directions eliminates pounds and pounds of old hard waste, and it's
Wow.
not coming from the liver, and it's definitely not the watermelons. And at Tanglewood, where we had watermelon, papaya, and fresh coconuts 12 months of the year, the first 2 days we're feeding, that's all people were offered. Their
Wow.
choice, but that's all they were offered because we wanted them to have things that were easy to digest and high in water content. And then as the refeeding process continued, they would have other options, but they were always things that were relatively high in water because
Hmm.
most people are coming in. I've been measuring clients' hydration levels now for 23 years. Every single person we've measured is dehydrated. Many
Mm.
people severely dehydrated. Okay.
Mm.
There are some shocking things that would surprise people. And again, push some people's buttons. If you think about this piece for a minute, this might not be surprising, but the most dehydrated people we have seen consistently are people who've had a dry fasting practice. They dehydrate the body severely. No
Mm.
matter what they do after that, no matter how they eat after that, they never recover their hydration.
Wow.
The second most dehydrated people we see, and this is shocking. By the way, so far, so again, I've been in the space for a long time, in the raw vegan community, in
Yeah.
the fasting world. There, many people, most people, are looking for magic bullets. They want to find the easiest way to get from A to. They want shortcuts, and I
Hmm.
understand. I think that's part of human nature. We want to, but we have to accept the fact that there are no shortcuts. If you want to build muscle, you have to exercise. If you want to get healthy, there are many things you need to do, but one of them is you've got to optimize your diet. But even with an optimal diet, a lot of people struggle. Why? Because in fact, often what happens is they feel amazing for 3 to 6 months, maybe even a couple of years. And then they start to feel worse. Their health begins to decline. Why? Because their body begins detoxifying all the stuff they did in those first 25, 30, 40, 50, 60 years. It's still
Yeah.
in there. It's in
Yeah.
there. Until we get rid of it, you're never going to feel and function the way you could. And so this is simply what it is. Well, so some people go to dry fasting because they think, well, this is faster, it's easier, it's a shortcut. There's absolutely zero science or logic to support the idea. Most of the mythology around dry fasting, it's nonsense. Okay, and there's a very simple piece that anybody listening can easily wrap their head around. We detoxify the body through 5 primary channels: through the colon. Well, number one, the urinary tract, right? Your 2 kidneys are filtering your blood roughly every 24 minutes, about 60 times per day. And
Hmm.
their job is to remove everything that the body doesn't want to have in the bloodstream. So this includes things that belong there. For instance, sodium and potassium are 2 critically important electrolytes, and we have to maintain them in a very specific ratio to each other. Sodium here, potassium here. The way most people eat, they're constantly excreting sodium because they're taking in tons of salt, right?
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
way you and I eat, I don't know exactly what you do, but obviously it's much better than most people. It's a lot of raw food, if not
I
exclusively.
eat 95% fruit.
Okay, so we eat pretty much the same way. For me, it's 95% fruit and the rest is lettuce. I have simple
Yeah.
salads and fruit
Yeah.
and not much else. Um, every once in a while, I'll do some gourmet raw food, but mostly it's very simple and mono fruit meals, simple
Yeah.
salads. So we're taking in very little salt, very little sodium in those foods. There's enough, but there's not very much. But we're taking a lot of potassium. So we're constantly peeing out excess potassium. Okay.
Mm.
Those are 2 things that the body wants and needs, but wants in specific quantities and proportions, and will eliminate the rest through the urinary tract. Now, not the only way. People say to me, you've probably seen people who, after they're done working out, you can see the salt stains on their t-shirts. That's
Oh yeah.
because they're taking so much salt in, their body's getting rid of it any way it can. Okay.
Mm.
Not everyone's sweat is so salty, or tears are so salty. This
Right.
happens because their bodies are trying to excrete this toxic substance.
Wow. You know,
Okay.
I never thought about that, but that makes so much sense.
Yeah.
So much sense.
Right. So urinary tract. Number 2 is the colon. We eliminate solid waste through the colon. Number 3 is through the skin. Number 4, breath. Number 5, mucous membranes. Eyes, nose, mouth, anus, vagina, penis. These are ways we move things from inside the body to outside the body. Okay. Every one of these 5 channels depends on having sufficient water in the body. When you take the average person is walking around dehydrated, you put them on a dry fast, and what happens? They become much more dehydrated. When they become more dehydrated, their body is absolutely unable to detoxify. Now, they'll swear to you they've healed everything because symptoms are evidence the body is cleansing or attempting to cleanse or heal. That's what symptoms are. Whether it's a cold, the flu, a headache, whatever it is, this is your body attempting to cleanse or heal. If you prevent the body from doing that by making it so dehydrated it's unable to, you're going to feel better. But so far, 6 people that I knew, clients or friends of mine, are now dead from dry fasting.
Whoa. Now,
Because
were they trying to do like elongated dry fast? Are they trying to, like I hear, I mean, a lot of people, they want to go breatharian, or they've successfully done it, 15 days, like,
yeah,
is
yeah.
that, I mean, but a lot of those people were preparing for that. They did a lot of water fast, a lot of juice fast, and they worked their way up to actually being dry fasted. So is that considered the same as the people that just go straight to dry fasting versus people who have been in this lifestyle for a long time?
Well, let me say it this way. I don't believe there's anything in the body that allows dry fasting. So let's back up. Why dry fasting? Well, people say, well, animals, that's what animals do. And the truth is that that's what animals usually do because animals in nature have lived their entire life eating their natural diet. And all natural diets are high in water. All natural diets, right? A carnivore, a wolf will catch a deer, a rabbit, whatever, around the neck,
Yeah.
bite through the carotid artery and the jugular veins. The carotid artery brings blood from the heart to the brain. The jugular veins from the brain back to the heart. And so, I mean, in our bodies, for instance, brain's about 2% of your body weight. Okay, about 3 pounds. So less than 2% of mine, probably a little bit more than 2% of yours. But it gets 35% of your blood supply. The most blood is running right through your neck all the time. So carnivores will bite through the neck of their prey. They'll drink all the blood. It's 92% water. Then they'll tear it open, eat the water-rich internal organs.
Wow.
Then they eat the muscle without cooking all the water out of it and putting it between 2 dry pieces of bread. That's the way real carnivores in nature eat their meat. All plant eaters, termites eat wood. You ever cut down a tree to use the wood? It's loaded with water.
Yeah.
You have to let it dry out first. So even a termite is getting plenty of water. Okay. Someone once said to me, yeah, but desert crabs eat only dry seeds. And I thought, well, water's life. How do they do that? I did some research. Desert crabs eat only seeds. How do they choose which seeds? By their water content. They eat the highest water containing seeds they can find. Because we've got to have water. Water is life. Okay.
Right.
So what these people are doing is they're preventing themselves from detoxing. Is it animals in nature, when they need water, they'll go seek water. I was teaching a full day seminar in Gdansk, Poland, and I was talking about this subject, and a man raised his hand. He said, Loren, I'm a large animal veterinarian. He said, you're absolutely right. Every animal instinctively stops eating when it needs to heal. Badly enough, it'll stop eating. He said, but animals will seek out water if they need it. No animal in nature says, for the next 10 days, I'm not going to eat or drink. They don't do that. They listen to their body. They stop eating because the body says, just lay down and rest. But if they need water, they go find water if they're able to. Okay? People are damaging their kidney. Being dehydrated is damaging to your kidneys every single time. Now, let's say you get stuck, you get lost in the desert in Nevada, for 5 days, and they find you and you're barely alive, and they take you to the hospital, they give you intravenous feeding, whatever, you eat whatever you do, you bring your hydration back up, you regain your life, and your kidneys will heal. But if you keep doing that every few months, you're going to damage them every single time, and eventually your kidneys go, yeah, I'm out, I'm done. Sorry. Does anybody benefit from doing? I mean, the people who have worked their way up to it are probably better off.
Right. Yeah, I mean,
But
you look at like people like Victor Truviano or Jasmine, and they haven't ate in years, but they
not
no.
true. Not true. No. Jasmine has been shown to have eaten on many occasions, and when she
Okay.
was caught eating, she said, "I didn't say I don't eat. I said I don't have to eat."
Uh-huh.
Listen, a lot of the well-known breatharians have been caught with food. There was, I can't remember the guy's name. There was Wally Brooks, maybe Wally somebody, African American, who claimed to be breatharian for whatever, however, quite a long time, was caught walking out of a McDonald's with a bag of Big Macs,
Oh, stop.
and he said, "This doesn't count. This doesn't count." And I thought, you know what? It's not food. I guess you can eat it.
Yeah, really. I mean, why would you choose that out of like, you're not eating it all and go to McDonald's? That's like
There's another guy who's today who's active in the world and telling people he's breatharian, and he spent 6 months or a year living on a friend of mine's farm in the Canary Islands, and she said he ate every single day while telling people he was breatharian.
oh
Okay,
wow.
so how many, is it possible to live without food? I don't know. I know we have perfectly well developed digestive tracts, and my own experience is that, again, spirituality is about our connection with everything,
Yeah.
including my digestive tract and the mango tree.
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
don't need to stop eating to become as spiritual as possible. I mean, there's a guy who's, I don't remember his name. He was an Indian man. I think he's since passed away. I saw when he was around 70 an interview with him, and what they did was they had people monitor him for 2 weeks or 3 weeks, 2 weeks, and over those 2 weeks, apparently he didn't eat or drink anything. Now,
Wow.
his arms and legs looked like toothpicks. And at the end of the interview, he stood up and walked away. That was a mistake. They shouldn't have showed him doing that, because the guy could barely walk at
Oh
that
wow.
age of 70. I'm 65. Okay.
Wow.
I'm body surfing and rock climbing and riding bikes and hiking to the top of mountains every week. Um, if I've got to have no muscle mass in order to be breatharian, no, thank you. Not interested.
Yep. So
That's not being connected to everything.
right. So going from that spectrum from breatharianism obviously to water fasting, and then how about the carnivorism? Because your people are claiming that is the lifestyle, that's the diet, that's healing everything. I mean, you see it all over social media now. They're like, I was vegan for years and now I've healed my body by just
Right.
eating raw meat. I
Yeah.
mean, and exactly what you're talking about, dehydration. Can we go a little bit into this? I know
Yeah.
it's going to piss people off, but let's
No.
go there.
Well, let's complete, if we have time. Let's finish talking about hydration, and
Yeah.
because it's so critically important. And then we can, if you want, we can talk about the whole carnivore thing. So let's come back to your original question. The issue of having pain-free childbirth. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So a woman who's giving birth is attempting to move an object the size of a bowling ball through a relatively small opening. Now, men and perhaps younger women, women who've never had a baby may not be aware of this, but most women, when they give birth, one of two things happens. One, they have an episiotomy. And as you probably know, an episiotomy is a relatively minor surgery where they open the woman's body from the bottom of the vagina almost to the anus to enlarge the opening. This isn't what's supposed to happen in nature. Okay. Now, women who don't get episiotomies usually have tearing. And although that's painful, when the tissue tears, it actually heals faster when it tears rather than when it's cut. Okay.
Yeah.
But most women have one of these two things happening. My clients, and apparently you, have childbirth without either of these two things happening.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Well, so when you improve your diet, you begin to hydrate a little bit. Although, again, we're going to piss off a whole bunch of people who will tell me I'm wrong, I'm a liar, I'm wrong. But I have data. So I measure my clients' hydration every day, okay,
Mm.
than when they're working with me. And I've now measured more than about 8,000 people's hydration levels. The next most dehydrated people are the people eating a fruit-based diet who aren't drinking water.
Mm.
If you haven't cleaned it, so that old material, again, how old were you before you really cleaned up your diet, Sarah?
I started at age 32.
Okay. All right.
32. So it's been almost 10 years. Yeah.
Okay. And I don't know why, I just assume you're around 29 like me.
Exactly.
I'm going to be 29 in a month. A month from today, I'll be 29, and it'll be my 36th time.
Ah, happy birthday.
I'm getting good at it. 29.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so you had plenty of years of stuff that didn't belong in the body,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, it sits in the small intestine like a giant sponge. Now, here's why there are people who say water dehydrates you. Someone said that to me on one of my reels that commented that, and I said, you're absolutely right. In exactly the same way that breathing takes oxygen out of your body and eating takes nutrients away from you. It's a silly thing to say. Hydration is a measure of how much water is in your body. Water can't dehydrate you. But here's why some people think water dehydrates them, and why fruitarians who don't drink enough water and haven't gotten that giant sponge out are more dehydrated than people eating conventionally. People eating conventionally are drinking something, water, milk, something. Did you grow up eating peanut butter and jelly sandwiches?
Oh, of course.
Did you ever eat one without drinking something?
No.
Is that even possible?
No. No, it's like just sticks in your mouth.
I don't think you could get it down. I mean, most of the things that I grew up eating dry cereal. I mean, we put milk on it, but
Yep.
milk is mostly water, and without putting liquid on that, you're not going to choke that down.
Mm-hmm.
So what happens is when people move to a fruit-based diet, they think, I don't need water anymore because now I can eat my food without water, and that's true.
Mm-hmm.
But until they get that giant sponge out of the body, what happens is every time they eat food, let me ask you a question. Sorry to interrupt myself.
Yeah.
Okay, so you've just prepared food and your kitchen counter is dirty, and you're gonna clean the kitchen counter. You have a dry sponge sitting there. What's the first thing you do?
You get it wet.
Exactly. Why?
Why? Because it picks up the dirt
Well,
and it cleans up. It's much easier.
no, but your countertop is wet. You need to dry it off. You're still gonna wet the sponge first, aren't you?
Yeah.
And the reason why is because water is hydrophilic to water. It's attracted to water. It's hydrophobic to sponge. It's not attracted to the sponge. It's attracted to the water. And I've got potted plants here. Okay, if I'm away for a week and I come back and the soil in the pot is dry, before I can really get it to soaked, I've got to dampen it first, because otherwise the water just runs right off of it. It's
Totally.
the same. It's the same with the soil in your body, this old material. So when you're eating high water content food, you're activating that giant sponge, you're dampening it, and now it's absorbing water from your body. Okay. When you get rid of it, you can get fully hydrated. So I've got 6 siblings. Everybody wears glasses. My vision's better than 20/20.
Wow.
Everybody, my mother had terrible arthritis from the time she was in her early 30s. She died last year at nearly 90 with terrible arthritis. All of the 4 of us in our 60s or more, except me, have terrible arthritis. Not me. My joints work better today than it did when I was 18. Okay, why? I'm the most hydrated person we've ever measured. Why? Because I fasted enough to get all the old garbage out of my body, and I did it properly. Most people don't do it properly. Okay, I got all that garbage out, and then I eat a high water content diet. But the high water content diet, without getting that stuff out first, as long as that giant sponge is in there, you're never going to be able to get hydrated. It's impossible. You can't do it. And so when people are eating a high water content diet, but not sipping water, and they still have that stuff in there, they're actually, the water from their food is being absorbed into that material, which then dries out again every night when they're not eating, and they never get the body hydrated that way. And this is the cause of so many issues. I
Yeah.
mean, I've, every day when I'm working with my clients, we're looking at 30 different metrics. Blood pressure, which is two numbers. The difference between those numbers, which medicine calls pulse pressure, I call that spread. What the ideal spread is, something I've calculated over the years. I have a formula. What that is, what the difference is, the percentage of that, your pulse, your temperature, your blood oxygen saturation, blood sugar, muscle mass, body fat, water in the body, weight, changes in all those numbers, et cetera, et cetera. The most important number is overall hydration. When the body's fully hydrated, it's able to detoxify in real time, something most people can't do. Because again, there's no detoxification without hydration. Let's come back for 1 second to the dry fasters. Over the last 5 or 6 years, this has kind of become a big fad, and I hope it's just a fad so people stop dying from this. But when these people come to me, they're the most dehydrated. We would have 32 to 34 people fasting at one time on campus at my place. Okay, they were always the most dehydrated people within their age range every single time. The people who'd had a dry fasting practice, no matter how long they'd worked up to it, none of that made. They were always the most dehydrated people. There was never a single person who had a dry fasting practice that was well hydrated. Not a single one. When they were working with me, and I've got them drinking a significant amount of water. And again, I've figured out 25 years ago how to understand the vital signs in a way that they don't teach doctors and nurses and medical people. I've now taught this to dozens of doctors, but so I can actually see how much water somebody needs each day and give them direction. When they follow my directions, what happens to these people is we see their hydration coming up while they're fasting, and all the symptoms, all the things they thought they healed are coming back. Because their body couldn't detoxify without water. Once it's hydrated again, all those symptoms reappear. Okay. And so, I would say dry fasting is one more way that we're suppressing symptoms by making the body so dehydrated that we're damaging the kidneys and guaranteeing to shorten our life. At this point, there's no history of anybody who's done this a long time without putting themselves in real danger. It might happen, but we don't know. It's, we haven't had enough history yet to see what happens. Okay. So the woman's body, when her tissues are much better hydrated, they're much more flexible. That's why it becomes much easier for a woman to give birth without pain. This is what happens.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I definitely can attest to that because, I mean, I opened up so quick. Like I told you, my first one was just 15 minutes and it went like this, like immediately, no tearing, just went in and out, and I didn't feel any pain. It just happened, and it went right back to place. And then it happened again for my second one at 40 years old. You know what I mean? And so it happened again. It just, it was like the body is designed to open up and to close easily. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
And it was like, so my midwife the first time, I didn't have a midwife the second time. The midwife the first time told me that my uterus went back to place the fastest she's ever seen healed a uterus before. She's like, oh my gosh, it's just right back there. I'm like,
right where it should be.
And the belly goes right back in, and you're making tons of milk. And people always ask me, they say, why do I not make enough milk? I'm like, are you hydrated? Are you drink? They're like, how do you have enough? I'm like, of course I have tons and tons of, fruits. And
well, of course, most people are not hydrated. But by the way, the funniest thing, years and years ago, I was driving through Washington, D.C., listening to a program on National Public Radio, some pretty intelligent stuff. But there was a woman, the expert was talking about why drinking milk was bad for us. And there was a woman who called in and said, yeah, but I'm pregnant. I have to drink milk to make milk. Like, right? Yeah. No, it doesn't work that way.
It's the same thing as that I have to take life to bring life. Like I have to kill animals to be able to grow life.
Right.
Same thing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, unfortunately, there are these huge lapses of understanding and common sense. I mean, there's no mammal that drinks milk in order to produce milk. It doesn't happen, right? But it's crazy how many people believe things like this. Anyway, so you want to talk about carnivore, or should we talk more
Yeah,
about
I think I
dehydration?
got 10 more minutes before my baby might need to be hydrated.
All right, yeah. So I mean, hydration absolutely critical, and I'll guarantee anybody if they fast long enough and properly, you need to have experienced guidance. If you do that, we're going to see your hydration go up, and it's crazy what happens. If someone wrote to me the other day, and I could see from the photograph, the skin issues, skin's super dehydrated. I'm like, you're dehydrated. I mean,
Yeah.
that's so many things. We just get them hydrated again, everything changes, right?
So
Um,
simple. So simple.
so simple. So carnivore, right?
So carnivore. Let's
People,
go into it.
yeah.
Let's go to hydration with carnivorism. How does that work out?
Well, better than without the hydration, that's for sure. But again, it's important to understand there are literally dozens of different important anatomical and physiological differences between our bodies and the body of a true carnivore. Okay, and let's start with a very simple one. I'm looking at you. I don't know how tall you are. I'm guessing you're 110 pounds. I mean,
Spot on.
I've been doing this for a long time, right? So,
5'6", 110, 115, depending. Yeah.
right. So a tiger, a Siberian tiger is about 500 pounds. Okay. Their digestive tract from mouth to anus is 12 feet long. Yours is 32 feet long.
Wow.
Yours is more than 2.5 times longer, even though that animal is nearly 5 times bigger than you. Proportionally, yours is 12.5 times longer than that animal's. Why? Why? Because you're meant to eat things that are completely not harmful to the body. Fruit and soft leaves like lettuce. And really not much else. Okay. When we consume those things, it takes 8 to 12 hours for things to move through the system. So it should be have a meal, 8 to 12 hours later, have a bowel movement. There should be one bowel movement for every meal. Okay. Most people are not doing that. Many people are eliminating once a day. Some people eliminate once a week. Carnivore people often are eliminating once every 10 to 14 days. And I've heard them say, well, it's because I absorb everything I'm eating. I'm like, well, that's interesting because real carnivores don't do that. They have a bowel movement after every meal.
Wow.
There's waste that they are not able to absorb and assimilate, and they have a bowel movement, and it's usually within 2 hours of the meal because their digestive tracts are short, smooth, and straight, where ours are long, twisting and turning, and sacculated like a vacuum cleaner hose. And that happens to increase surface area. If we looked at the length of the small intestine and the diameter of the small intestine, which is 1/2 inch, if I remember correctly, it's about 5 square feet if we were to open it up. That's what the surface area would be. But with the sacculations, right, it increases the surface area to the extent that the actual surface area of a small intestine is roughly the size of a tennis court. That enables us to absorb as much as possible.
Wow.
Although many people aren't absorbing very well because they've got all this old hard waste stuck in the system. So they're eating perfectly and not getting what they need. Okay. Now and this is crazy. And we're talking fringe talking here about carnivore, but when we get just to the side, when we get the body clean, what happens? When I was, let's say, 35 years ago, before I went raw, I was eating in excess of 3,000 calories a day, working out regularly, being very physically active. I was riding my mountain bike. I was lifting weights. I went from lifting weights to practicing yoga, but every day, right, working out a lot, more than 3,000 calories. Today, 1,000 to 1,200 calories most days on average. I'm just as active. Okay, what happens? What happens is when we get the bodies clean and hydrated, they become way more efficient. And the only thing that longevity experts all agree on is that we don't want to eat any more than we need to maintain a healthy body. Doesn't matter how good the food is. the more of it we eat, the more work the body's doing.
Right.
So we want to slow that down. Now, carnivores, of course, here we've got something that our bodies are completely not adapted to. So why do they feel better? Well, the answer is very simple. They've given up most of the garbage that people are eating, because the only thing worse than animal products for our bodies are processed foods.
Mm-hmm.
And the average North American now gets around 65% of their calories from ultra processed foods. So you give that up and you go to only meat, which meat's not good for you, but it's a lot better than what they were eating before. And that's the key. The piece we have to understand is that in every single moment of our lives, our bodies are attempting to get the most benefit for the least amount of effort. So if we clean up our diet by getting rid of all the processed foods, it's better than it was before. It's not healthy, but it's better, and we're going to see improvements come. Mm-hmm. Are these people better off? Well, the science. So first of all, there are some studies that suggest that eating meat is good for you overall. Those studies, almost without exception, were funded by the American Beef Association, organizations like that. They're complete nonsense. Okay? They're pure, unadulterated bullshit. Companies pay for studies all the time. A lot of research, at least 2/3 of the studies out there, should be ignored because they've been bought and paid for by commercial interests who want you to believe a certain viewpoint. Okay. Totally. If we look at, all the other studies, here's what we know. In fact, there's a doctor, I can't remember his name. He's one of these big bodybuilding MDs who doesn't practice medicine now. He just makes a lot of money selling the garbage he sells. And he's a carnivore, or as I like to say, carnidiot. And he's out there. He says, here, this study just demonstrated. It was a review. So it was one of these where they publish looking at a whole bunch of studies. They're not actually doing the numbers themselves. But what they said was that eating a vegan diet increases your risk of colorectal cancer. That was his post on Facebook or Instagram. And I was like, well, hang on, let me go look at that study. Oh, you know what else the study said? The study said that eating a vegan diet dramatically reduces your risk of a dozen other cancers and slightly increases your risk of this one. And there were 2,800 meat eaters in the study and 93 vegans.
Wow.
Which means we don't have enough data to come to any valid conclusions about this at all. Right? So there is my point here is really simple. There's no valid science that suggests eating meat is good for you in any way. Okay? The truth about this is that our protein needs are tiny. You have an infant now. How old is the baby? 3 months?
He's 9 months.
9 months old. Okay. Still breastfeeding.
Yeah.
Okay, that's beautiful. Perfect. Do you happen to know how much protein your breast milk has this year?
5%, I believe.
It's not.
Not
even. It varies over the course of the year. It starts off at virtually zero, goes up, and then comes down over the course of the year. It averages around 2.5% protein.
Okay.
Okay. Now, and the baby is at 9 months is probably already 15, 16 pounds.
Yeah, a little bit more. He's probably almost 20.
Okay. Because the average, probably 18 would be more average. The average baby infant goes from 7 pounds to 20 pounds in the first 12 months.
Yep.
In the second 12 months, they don't grow by 300%. They grow by 30% in the next 12 months. We never grow as fast as we did in that first year of life, getting 2.5% of our calories from protein.
Yep.
We don't ever need 20-30% of our calories from protein. And in fact, the more protein we eat, the faster we age and die. And the science is clear about this. One paper said if 30% of your calories come from protein, plant protein, you have twice the risk of death from all causes. If 30% of your calories come from animal protein, you have 3 times the risk of death from all causes. Okay? So, are people benefiting? No. They've got more cancer. They've got more heart, liver, kidney, and bowel disease. Their
Yeah.
testosterone goes down. These
Mm.
guys think they're more manly. Testosterone goes down. There's higher rates of impotence.
Yeah.
They're slower muscle recovery,
Yeah.
slower wound healing. IQ is lower, and they die 6 to 9 years earlier.
Wow. Wow.
But it's the best thing in the world. And unfortunately, again, we talked earlier about how so many people are walking around with so little self-esteem.
Yeah.
Right? We didn't use those words, but that's what we were agreeing.
Yeah.
I think a lot of the people that are doing this carnivore thing are guys that don't have a lot of self-esteem. And look, if you eat excessive amounts of protein, you can build unnaturally large muscles. Now, is that a good idea? Not if you want to live a long time. It's not. No. The
Mm-hmm.
longest lived people are lean people.
Mm.
Okay. I mean, you need to have enough muscle mass for your body to function properly. But
Right.
growing, unnaturally large muscles,
Yeah.
it shortens your lifespan.
Wow.
It's
Wow.
good for you in no way.
Mm-hmm.
It's not helping you at all. So, what else can we say about carnivore? Any other questions?
I don't think so. I think you pretty much covered all of it, and a lot of what people, are asking continuously all the time. And so these are really great, sound bites of very good information that people can actually go, okay, it's not just some vegan talking, and they're always talking about just like, well, vegans. Well, I always say like half the vegans are eating processed food. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
When
Exactly.
I first went vegan, I was eating processed food. I didn't feel good until I was actually 80% raw.
Right. I
You
mean,
know?
listen, I'm posting reels every day now for months, and I'm getting these carnidiots saying things like, "Yeah, but you're consuming goitrogenic compounds and oxalates and
Right,
cellulose."
right,
No, I'm not. I mean, tiny amounts of those things, like raspberries have oxalates, but
right.
I don't do a lot of raspberry meals where I'm
No,
living only on raspberries. Every once in a while I'll eat some raspberries. It's no problem. I mean, raspberries are
right.
amazing. They're good for you.
Yeah,
It's not like you can't eat any oxalates. But if you're going through life eating tons of cruciferous vegetables, you're actually harming yourself. Okay, we're not meant to eat those. We're meant to eat soft leaves like lettuce, which have very few oxalates and no goitrogenic compounds. They have almost no anti-nutrients.
yeah,
They're very low in cellulose. These are things we can't digest, right?
yeah.
But people are like, "Oh, vegan, that's vegan." Like, no, no, no.
Yeah, yeah. There's a
This is
difference,
not
and there's a difference
complete.
too between a high fruit raw vegan and a high fat raw vegan. I just had someone competing with me as well on that. I'm like, you're trying to compare your lifestyle of just eating lots of fats and nuts and seeds to
Yeah.
someone who's eating fruit, like very much hydration and greens and just lettuces, like you said, and juices. It's a very different lifestyle. So I think that getting very clear here what that means, and it's exactly what you're saying about hydration. Are you
It's
hydrated? It comes back
it's
to
key.
hydration. It comes back to
It does.
water.
It all comes back to hydration. Yeah.
Yeah,
I believe that nuts and seeds may have played an important role for us evolutionarily in times of drought or, like that. Imagine you've got a situation where there's no fresh fruit, but nuts in their
yeah,
shell, intact in their shells, they stay good for a long time. So we might
yeah,
have lived on
absolutely.
those. But, back then, when I was a kid, my mother would entertain a couple times a year. And on the coffee table in the living room, there would be big bowl of nuts and a couple nutcrackers.
Mm,
And I would sit there as a kid. I'd sit there and crack the walnuts and the pecans
yeah,
and the almonds. It would take 5 to 10 minutes to get one single kernel into my mouth, and then I'd
right,
work on the next
right.
one. Now you can go to Whole Foods and pull the lever, and you've got 2 kilos of shelled nuts in your bag. And I don't know about you. I mean, I've got to be really careful because they're highly addictive.
Oh yeah, you just eat tons and tons and tons of them.
Easy
The
to just
bag is
shovel them into
gone.
your face. Right. And then the next day, yeah, I don't feel so good.
Yeah,
And where I normally, my girlfriend says I smell like fruit, not after eating a bunch of nuts. Then I've got some body odor for the first time.
yeah, yeah,
Right.
yeah, for
Anyway, I
sure,
see there's lots of questions. I don't
for
know if
sure.
will the
I
questions,
know.
will they
I
show
would.
up? Will they
I
still
would.
be there?
Yeah, I would love to. We do have a lot of questions here. I don't, if I screenshot, I can screenshot some of these and we can
Yeah.
get to them.
Okay.
Let me do that right now because I think it goes away.
Yeah. That's been my experience too. They go away.
And, let's see if it'll do it. Figuring out all this technological stuff. Okay, let's see.
Not me.
Definitely, it feels like a lot of people. Yeah, there's lots of questions here going on. Um, True fast food is literally just peel an orange. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah, guys, thank you so much for asking all these questions. There's so much going on here. That means I think we're just going to have to do another conversation and go through these questions more. But I do have to run. You were right. You said it's going to be 90 minutes. I can actually hear my baby like calling for me a little bit. But this was just absolutely informative. So inspirational. So I think we tackled everything from emotional to spiritual to physical to the scientific to meat to raw to everything. We got a lot in on this conversation, and I'm going to be putting it together. I'll put it on YouTube as well, and then we'll get some clips out here so people can all
Sure.
get all this really vital, juicy,
Yeah.
fruity information here. And
Beautiful.
how can people find you? Tell us how they can find you. How can they work with you? What is the first steps? Go.
Okay. Well, I mean, so we're here on Instagram together. Probably the easiest way, since you're on Instagram, is just to message me on Instagram. I look at it and try to respond every day. I'm pretty much perennially behind on tasks. I've got so much going on. It's hard to keep up with it all. But if you message me on Instagram, I'll get back to you usually within a day or two at the most. And you can start by just reaching out and telling me you're interested in working with me. We can then talk about what that would look like. In fact, if I may, and I know you need to go, I have a new program that we're about to relaunch. We had one cohort.
Yeah.
So my average client fast is 26 days. I believe one of your dear friends is working with me right now. She is on day 16 of a 21-day fast.
So cool.
Yeah, it's amazing what's going to happen for her. But I know a lot of people are going to go, yeah, I'm not going to do 21 days.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have a new program that's heavy on education. As you can see, I've been studying nutrition and health now for more than 50 years. I read studies. I've worked with more than 16,000 people. I have a lot of information. And so I have a program called the Fasting Reset. And it's a 4-week program, but it's only 7 days of water fasting. So it's heavy on education, but it gives you a chance to dip your toe in the water and see what it feels like to fast with me. And we're starting on the 18th of April. We're just about, I think tomorrow, I just made some promotional videos. First one goes up tomorrow. So if you're listening and you're interested in that, write to me, because you can get in now, and I can, you know what I'll do? If you write to me and say, I want to do the reset, I heard you on Sarah's program, I'll give you a 10% discount. Okay.
Awesome.
But and it's, but you're going to want to make that happen because it's an incredible process. And if you're ready, if you're ready to jump into a longer fast, I'll still give you a 10% discount, but you need to do that. You need to do that right away. My rates are about to go up for the first time in 6 years. So do it now before they go up, and I'll work with you. All right.
Hey, amazing. Thank you so much again for being on here. Thank you for sharing.
My pleasure. My pleasure.
Yeah.
So, great to meet you.
Awesome. Well, have a beautiful rest of your day, and
You
we'll
too.
see you soon.
Sounds good. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Take care, everybody.